If you thought preseason football was boring, the Dallas Cowboys and Baltimore Ravens just proved otherwise because last night's matchup gave us everything from big-time rookie flashes to some concerning struggles that the coaching staff will need to address immediately. And today we're breaking down all the winners and losers from this Cowboys vs. Ravens showdown with a special focus on Joe Milton's highly anticipated preseason action. So buckle in because this is where the real story of the Cowboys roster battles comes alive, and if you want to know who's rising, who's slipping, and what it all means for week 1 of the regular season, you're in the right place. Welcome back, Cowboys fans. This is your one-stop shop for in-depth analysis, and today's video is going to give you a full breakdown of the key standouts and disappointments from preseason week 2 because yes, while the scoreboard doesn't count, the tape sure does, and these games are where future starters and surprise roster cuts are born. So let's dive straight into the winners list and start with the man everyone wanted to see, Joe Milton. The rookie quarterback came into this game with all eyes on him, and you could feel the buzz in the stadium when he took the field, and honestly, he did not disappoint. Milton showed off that rocket arm that made him such an intriguing draft pick, threading a beautiful sideline pass that dropped right into the receiver's hands, proving his velocity is NFL ready. But beyond just the arm, what impressed me most was his composure in the pocket. Against the Ravens defense known for blitz-heavy schemes even in preseason, Milton stood tall, went through his reads, and looked comfortable making decisions. Sure, there were a couple of throws he'd want back one high ball that could have been picked off, but overall he flashed the kind of upside that makes you think the Cowboys might have something real in him, especially as a developmental QB behind Dak Prescott. Next winner has to be wide receiver Jalen Tolbert, who continues to prove he's ready to carve out a bigger role in this offense. Tolbert was Milton's favorite target, hauling in tough contested catches, showing crisp route running, and looking every bit like the WR3 the Cowboys desperately need. His chemistry with Milton stood out, but more importantly, he looked confident against Baltimore's secondaries, turning heads with his ability to separate off the line. Another big-time winner was linebacker Damone Clark, who came out flying around the field. Clark's speed, instincts, and tackling were on full display as he racked up stops in both run support and in coverage. With the Cowboys' defense already loaded with stars like Micah Parsons, seeing Clark take this next step could give Dallas an even scarier linebacker unit heading into the season. And speaking of defense, Andrew Booth Jr. deserves his flowers for his performance in this game. The young corner showed sticky coverage all night, breaking up passes and limiting the Ravens' chances downfield. With cornerback depth being a key concern after last season's injuries, Booth looked like he could be a reliable rotational piece, if not more. Then we've got running back Phil Mafah, who just keeps forcing the coaching staff to give him more touches. Mafah ran hard, showed burst through the line, and displayed good vision that resulted in chain-moving runs. In a backfield that's still trying to figure out who's going to complement the starter, Mafah might be playing himself onto the 53-man roster. Finally, on the winners list, I have to mention the Cowboys' offensive line depth. Yes, there were some shaky moments, but overall the unit gave Milton enough time to operate, opened lanes for the backs, and didn't look completely overwhelmed against Baltimore's front, which is saying something considering how aggressive the Ravens usually are. Now, of course, not everyone came out of this game looking like a star, so let's talk about the losers list and who struggled under the lights. First up is Mazi Smith, the former first-round pick who the Cowboys really need to step up this season. Unfortunately, against the Ravens, Smith looked sluggish off the line, struggled to anchor in run defense, and at times was completely neutralized. For a player the Cowboys drafted to help solve their interior defensive line issues, this was not the performance you wanted to see. He still has time to turn it around, but the patience of fans and coaches is wearing thin. Another disappointment was James Houston, who had a quiet night despite opportunities to make plays. Houston didn't generate much pressure off the edge and at times looked like he was struggling to find his assignment in space. With the Cowboys' defensive front being so competitive, he cannot afford many more games where he fades into the background. On offense, backup running back Malik Davis didn't help his case either. Davis had trouble finding holes, didn't show much burst, and failed to make a big impact. When guys like Mafah are shining, a performance like Davis's could put his roster spot in jeopardy. Another player who struggled was cornerback Kelvin Joseph, who got beat a few times in coverage and just hasn't shown the consistency the Cowboys need from their depth corners. With Booth shining, Joseph's spot suddenly feels a lot less secure. Special teams also deserve a mention here because kicker Brandon Aubrey missed a field goal that absolutely should have been automatic. In tight NFL games, especially late in the season, those misses can be the difference, and preseason is where kickers need to build confidence, not lose it. And lastly, I'll say the Cowboys' overall run defense looked shaky again, which is concerning because this was one of their biggest weaknesses last season. Baltimore ran the ball effectively, controlled tempo at times, and exposed the lack of push from the interior defensive line. That ties back to Mazi Smith's struggles, but it's also a unit-wide concern that Dan Quinn is going to have to address before Week 1. So what's the bottom line after this Cowboys vs. Ravens preseason matchup? The winners gave us plenty to be excited about. Joe Milton showed promise as a developmental quarterback, Jalen Tolbert is emerging as a legitimate weapon, and Damone Clark and Andrew Booth flashed serious defensive upside. But the losers list reminds us that not everything is solved yet. Mazi Smith's struggles continue to be the elephant in the room, James Houston didn't flash, and the run defense remains a glaring issue. Preseason is about learning, adjusting, and finding out who can handle the pressure when the lights come on, and the Cowboys are definitely getting some answers. The good news is that some young guys are stepping up and giving this team hope for both depth and future star power, while the bad news is that certain old problems like the run defense still linger. But that's exactly why these games matter, because they expose the truth of where this team stands heading into the regular season. Now, Cowboys Nation, I want to hear from you who impressed you the most in this game and who are you most concerned about going forward. Do you think Joe Milton is already proving he's worth the investment, or are you still worried about Mazi Smith's development? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this conversation is just getting started. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more in-depth Cowboys coverage all preseason long, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. We're going to be following every storyline, every roster battle, and every highlight all the way to Week 1, so stick with us for the ride. Until next time, thanks for watching, and go Cowboys!